Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian. Now that we've finished the whole book, go ahead and let me know some of your favorite stories that weren't in there, and we'll see what we can do with them. The one I'm going to give you today is the story of a man named Paul, or started out as Saul. It's real hard to do his story in just a few minutes because he did so much. He enters the story as Saul of Tarsus, and that doesn't mean too much to us these days, but Tarsus was a big deal. It was a major city at the time. It was like a cultural hub, a central point of Greek and Roman culture. With Saul born and raised there, he would have been brought up with some of the best that civilization had to offer in terms of education and culture and literature. Unlike most of Jesus' disciples who were these rough blue-collar guys, Saul was one of the elites. Not just in terms of education, but he was a Roman citizen, which is kind of a big deal too. That wasn't an automatic thing. Not everybody was a citizen. And most people who were had to spend a lot of money to buy citizenship. Paul says he was a citizen from birth, which means his family had some serious status. But then on top of that, he has like the pinnacle of Jewish education. He was a Pharisee. He studied under Gamaliel, one of the top rabbis of the time. And he was very well versed in the scriptures and in prophecy and in everything that the Bible said. And that's how he had this sort of interesting dual identity. He was very, very Roman and very, very Jewish, which is weird because the Jews and Romans didn't get along, but Paul could walk in both worlds. He was one of the Jewish leaders. He believed with all his heart that this whole Jesus movement thing that was starting up and really gaining speed was a cult that was corrupting the pure worship of Judaism. As he himself said in Galatians 1:13, "You know what I was like when I followed the Jewish religion, how I violently persecuted God's church. I did my best to destroy it. I was far ahead of my fellow Jews in my zeal for the traditions of my ancestors." So we have this guy from elite society, super well educated and well trained, who is super passionate for his religion to the point of not just following it, but enforcing it. That is until he encountered Jesus himself, and that radically changed his life forever and totally shifted his perspective. He transitioned from the biggest persecutor of Christianity to like its single greatest champion. I can't give you the entire story. By all means, read it yourself in Acts chapter 9 and then Paul telling it from his perspective in Acts 22. But here's the most important part. To set the scene, Saul has permission and letters from the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem to go to Damascus and find any Christians there, they called them followers of the way, and arrest them, men, women, children, whatever, drag them back in chains to put them in prison and brutally punish them if they insist on following Jesus. Then it says, as he was approaching Damascus on this mission, a light from heaven suddenly shone down around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. And the voice replied, "I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." That one moment right there changed Paul forever. When he stands up, he's blind from that bright light. He has to be led into Damascus until a Christian comes and lays hands on him and prays for him, and then he can see again. And Paul is immediately converted and begins following Jesus and learning from him. But it doesn't take away anything of who Paul was. All of that passion and vigor that he always had is just redirected now. He's just as passionate now about spreading the message of Jesus. In Ephesians 3:7, he said, "By God's grace and mighty power, I've been given the privilege of serving him by spreading this good news." And man, did he take it seriously. He authored half of the New Testament. He traveled extensively across basically the known world, all over Europe and Asia, establishing churches, not just getting them to say a prayer for their sins to be forgiven, but teaching them how to live this life of faith. Most of the teaching we have in the Bible of what it looks like to follow Jesus comes from Paul. And he has basically two key messages. One is that it's only Jesus. Don't put your trust in anything else. He tells us about how he used to trust in his credentials and his performance and keeping the law, and he realizes that that is all utterly worthless compared to Jesus. Specifically, read Philippians 3 to get a lot of that one. But maybe even more important is the idea that you don't need to get it all right. You don't need to be the elite. You don't need to be the one who has all the right stuff, who knows all the right answers and clean your act up to come to Jesus, because that's not the point. In Ephesians 2:9, he says, salvation is not a reward for the good things we've done, so none of us can boast about it. Maybe even more importantly, in Romans 5:8, he explains, God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners. It's not a matter of us coming to him. It's not that we reach out and work hard enough and God will accept us. It's that he made made the move. He pursued us. And that's Paul's message that he never got tired of sharing, because I think he never got over the fact of he couldn't believe how badly he had missed it. If anybody was going to figure this out and connect the dots, it should have been him. He had all the credentials. He had all the information. He should have seen it, but he didn't until Jesus changed everything for him. That's the whole idea. And that's what he wanted for everyone else. That's what I want for you too. That's the whole point of this channel, is to help you see this perspective, to see what Jesus is, what he has to offer, and the way he longs to change your life if you'll simply let him. It doesn't matter what you know or don't know. It doesn't matter what you've done or not done. It's all Jesus. That's the only thing that matters. Let him change you. All it takes is trusting in him and not yourself.